He climbs out of a wrecked race car with the front end torn off, and the first thing he does isn't check his own damage. He walks straight across the infield, no cameras chasing him, no thumbnail moment, and finds the team he just collected. That's Garrett Mitchell on Wednesday night at Berlin Raceway. And if you only know him as Cleetus McFarland, the guy with almost 5 million subscribers and over 2 billion views, this is not the video you're expecting. There was no burnout. No sold-out grandstand at the Freedom Factory. No highlight reel. Instead, a 22nd place qualifying run, a spin nobody saw coming, a middle finger from the race leader while getting lapped, and a crash with under 20 laps to go that ended his night and somebody else's car. On paper, it looks like a bad debut. But talk to anyone in the short track world right now, and they'll tell you this might be the most important night of his racing career. So let's actually break down what happened, and why it matters more than the finishing position suggests. Who is Garrett Mitchell, really? If you've been living under a rock, Garrett Mitchell is the 31-year-old from Bradenton, Florida, who owns the Freedom Factory and built one of the biggest automotive channels on the internet under the name Cleetus McFarland. Millions of subscribers, billions of views, and a reputation built on burnouts and grudge racing. But over the last couple of years, he's been quietly trying to become something different, an actual racer, not just a guy with a camera crew and a lot of horsepower. Why he was even at Berlin Raceway in the first place. Here's the part of the story that gets skipped over constantly, and it completely changes how you should read Wednesday night. Earlier this year, after his debut in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, Garrett Mitchell asked NASCAR if he could run a second race in that series, this time at Talladega. NASCAR said no. And they didn't dance around the reasoning, they told him flat out that they wanted to see him get more short track experience first, while he kept working through the ARCA Menard Series and the Craftsman Truck Series. He didn't fight it publicly. He basically said, it is what it is, and moved on to the trucks he had scheduled. That decision is the entire key to understanding Berlin. This wasn't a content stunt or a promotional appearance built around a YouTube upload. It was literally the assignment NASCAR gave him. They told him to go get short track laps, and he went and got them at one of the toughest, least forgiving bullrings in the country. Judge the result as coursework, not as a highlight. The season behind him. Across 2026, he's made 9 combined starts split between 2 ARCA divisions and the 2 lower NASCAR National Series, ARCA Menards East, the O'Reilly Series, and the Truck Series. And it's been a genuinely mixed bag. He finished second in the ARCA Menards race at Talladega back in April. 4th at Rockingham in the East Series. 11th at Daytona in February. But there have been rough nights too, 32nd at Rockingham in the O'Reilly Series, 35th at Nashville, and a 37th place finish in his Truck Series debut at Daytona. There's also a heavier thread running under all of it. Greg Biffle, the veteran NASCAR driver who became a close friend and mentor to Mitchell, was killed in a plane crash back in December along with his family. Biffle had actually advised him on his ARCA debut at Daytona. Mitchell spoke at his memorial and has carried the phrase, "be like Biff," through the entire season. Look at the tracks on that resume again: Daytona, Talladega, Kansas, Michigan, Nashville, Rockingham. Big, sweeping, high-speed tracks where the draft and aerodynamics do a huge share of the work. Berlin Raceway is nothing like that. Why Berlin Raceway is a different animal entirely. Berlin Raceway sits in Marne, Michigan. It's a high-banked bullring, well under half a mile around, where cars snap loose with almost no warning and the margin for error is razor thin. You don't need a stat to understand what this place is like, you just need to hear how a past winner of this exact race described it. Carson Hocevar, current NASCAR Cup Series driver and a friend of Mitchell's, put it simply, there's never been a perfect car at Berlin, it's just about who's the best of the worst in handling. That's the track Mitchell chose for his first ever super late model start. And the field he chose to do it against wasn't soft in the slightest. A stacked field and a real number on the line. 27 cars took the green flag for the Tekken 250 battle at Berlin, racing 250 laps for a $40,000 winner's prize. Bubba Pack was in that field, one of the all-time greats of super late model racing. Carson Hocevar was there, a Cup regular and a past winner of this exact race. Ty Majeski, a Craftsman Truck Series champion, was in the field too. So was Tristan, a rising prospect out of Aspire Motorsports. Beyond those 4 headline names, the entry list was loaded with longtime short-track veterans who've been running this exact type of car at this exact type of track for years, sometimes decades. Sit with that for a second. This was lap 1 of Garrett Mitchell's entire super late model career, against people who've been doing this specific discipline their whole lives. Qualifying 22nd out of 27 deserves an honest read, it's mid-pack toward the back, not competitive, but also not embarrassing for someone taking his first laps in the car at a track he'd never raced. Compare that to guys who've spent literal decades chasing wins at short tracks like this one and never landed a ride in a Cup car or a Truck Series start. Bubba Pack has built an entire career and reputation almost exclusively inside cars like this. Mitchell showed up with a fraction of the seat time and still put himself in the mix well enough to draw reactions from the leader and stay off the wall through contact that would have ended plenty of other rookies' nights early. That's the context that gets lost when people just glance at a finishing position and move on. How the race actually went. Early on, he spun while trying to avoid trouble developing ahead of him. At a track with banking and walls that close, a spin at speed usually ends in the fence. His didn't. He kept it off the wall, gathered it back up, and rejoined the field. That save alone is worth crediting on its own. Through the middle of the race it turned into a grind, rubbed fenders, a tire rub, the ordinary physical toll of short track racing while learning a brand new surface in real time. Then came the moment that's been clipped and shared everywhere since, and it's usually read completely backwards. While getting put a lap down by race leader Evan Shotko, contact between the two cars led to Shotko throwing up a middle finger as he went by. People see that and think embarrassment. But think about it logically, a car running dead last, staying out of everyone's way, doesn't get a reaction like that from the leader. That gesture means he was close enough to the racing line that the leader had to actually work around him. He was a factor in the groove, not a parked traffic cone. The fight up front. While all that was happening in the back, the real battle for the win was unfolding at the front, and it turned into the most dramatic sequence of the night. Shotko, who'd won this race before, led most of the 250 laps. With under 15 to go, something broke on the right front of his car, sending him hard into the turn 3 wall and ending his night just short of the checkered flag. That handed the lead to Bubba Pack and set up a door-to-door battle with Tristan. A few laps later, Pack appeared to bottom out entering turn 3, and that was enough to decide it. McKee took his first ever win in this race, with Pack second, Hocevar third, and Majeski fourth. And then it was Mitchell's turn to go for a ride. With roughly 19 laps left, Mitchell got loose in turn 3 as Shotko was closing in to lap him again. The car snapped and spun down the racetrack. Shotko threaded through and avoided him. The car directly behind, driven by Keith Herp, didn't have that option. The contact tore up the entire nose and right side of Herp's car. Mitchell's own car took heavy front-end damage. Herp was classified 18th, Mitchell finished 19th out of 27 starters. What separates this from just another bad night? Here's the part that actually matters. After he climbed out, Mitchell didn't head straight for his own wrecked car. He walked directly across the infield to the team he'd just collected, on camera, before he even addressed his own damage. Talking to Flow Racing afterward, his entire self-assessment was 2 words, "Well, I just suck." Later, in a video posted to his own channel, he opened by pointing out that Keith Herp had gotten the worst of it, said he'd already gone over and apologized to that team, and did it again on camera. On the cause, he didn't make excuses, he said flat out that he overcooked the corner and got loose. The line that's traveled the furthest since Wednesday, though, was about the level of competition itself. He said he got his ass kicked, but that he learned a lot, that the racecraft it takes to pass someone when there's genuinely nowhere to pass is insane, that it was that competitive, and that grassroots racing like this is just as hard as the big NASCAR series. He closed it out by saying the car is fixable and that he needs to get back out and keep learning. That matters more than it sounds like on the surface. Short track paddocks run entirely on reputation, and word travels fast through them. Drivers, owners, and crews who were at Berlin didn't just watch someone race hard and make a mistake, they watched him walk straight to the people he affected and own it, in person, before doing anything else. That's the kind of thing that gets remembered for years, and it has nothing to do with a 19th place finish. Think about how these situations usually go for someone with his kind of following. A lot of drivers in his position would have let a manager or a PR person handle the aftermath. A lot of them would have waited until the cameras were rolling for their own channel before saying a word. Mitchell did the opposite, he handled it live, in the moment, at the track, before he had any control over the narrative. That's not something you can fake for content, and short track regulars know the difference between a genuine apology and a scripted one. The fact that he led with concern for Keith Herp's car instead of his own is exactly the kind of detail that gets repeated in the pits for weeks after a race like this. What comes next? The turnaround is fast. This coming Saturday, the very first race of the brand new Cleetus McFarland Late Model Series is set to run at Berlin Raceway, a 75-lap event paying $20,000 to win, part of the Michigan 100 and Burnout Rivals weekend. It's worth being clear that this is a pro late model package, not the super late model class he ran on Wednesday. Lower horsepower, lower spec, and a field he sits much closer to the middle of. Different test entirely. The open question is equipment. He said the damage from Wednesday is fixable, but whether a repaired car or a backup shows up on a 2-day turnaround hasn't been confirmed. Further out, he's scheduled to return to the Craftsman Truck Series at Talladega Superspeedway in October, driving for Nice Motorsports. So here's the honest version of Wednesday night. He qualified 22nd. He got lapped by the leader. He was slower than the front of the field the entire race. He spun with 19 laps left, tore up a car he'd owned for a matter of weeks, and ended the night of a competitor who'd done nothing wrong. He finished 19th of 27. And he walked out of that racetrack with more respect in the short track community than he walked in with, because he said out loud that grassroots racing is just as hard as the top level of NASCAR, and he said it standing right next to the proof. Does a wreck in a debut like this actually carry weight, or is 19th just 19th? Drop your take in the comments, I want to hear it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, and subscribe for more weekly coverage of NASCAR, short track racing, and everything happening in the grassroots world. See you in the next one.